Hey everybody, it's Zach with Bluegrass Rentals of EKY. You're with me in my office this morning, and I want to talk to you about getting a 150% return on your short-term rental. Is that still possible in 2025 where interest rates are through the roof, where travel people are arguing maybe in a slow season right now? Is there a way in 2025 to achieve a 100+% cash-on-cash return in your short-term rental business? My answer is yes, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Again, thank you for being here. This is Bluegrass Rentals of EKY, where I'm going from full-time registered nurse to full-time real estate investor, as long as that may take to do so. And that you, in being on this channel, are following along in my journey with me, where I seek to provide you with educational content, vlog posts about my journey, and all those types of things. So thank you for being here. How can we achieve a 100+% cash-on-cash return in Airbnb in 2025? Well, that is something I want to mention to you today called IRR, or internal rate of return. It's the mindset of, instead of investing outside of your property that you already have, if you have a short-term rental, is instead of going and buying the next property and the next property and the next property and doing several properties fairly well, that you take one central property and make it very well. You invest back into what you have instead of investing into the next thing that you don't yet have access to, like another set of keys on another property, where you also might be jumping in and getting a higher interest rate and things like that. So what I want to talk to you about is internal rate of return. It's investing back into your property, ideally through adding amenities and features that makes your property stand out more. So if you were to go to another short-term rental today, take the cash that you have. Let's say you have a $20,000 down payment. You've saved up 20 grand. You're thinking about going and buying another property. And if you invest that $20,000 into a down payment on another rental, then you're going to be buying into a higher interest rate, possibly somewhere between 7 and 8%. You might get in the 6, 8, 6, 9s right now as of the filming of this video, but you're also going to see a return of, hopefully, in the 15% to 25% cash on cash return for that real estate investment as a whole for the course of the first year, which again is pretty good. And there's a lot of other benefits like equity and cash flow and all those types of things that you can also write off in that first year, depreciation, bonus depreciation. So there's a lot of ways where that number is really higher than the 15 to 25%. But if you want to really break the category of return on investment, the idea of investing back into high demand amenities in the property you already have is really, in my opinion, the way to go. Right now, short-term rentals are, people are saying, are oversaturated in certain markets. Well, how do you stand out in a market where you consider that your bed and bath count is oversaturated? The way you do that is differentiate yourself by using amenities and design features that set you apart from everybody else in the room. And that is what internal rate of returns mindset is. It's a mindset shift from scaling over the course of multitudes of properties, is maximizing the doors that you have. And that is by investing back into your properties. And that's what I want to mention today as my example. Let's say instead of going out and investing $20,000 into a next property, I take $10,000 of that and invest that back into my property. So I have an A-frame in the Red River Gorge. Let's say that I've saved up $7,000 to do a small deck and a hot tub on that, a $2,000 deck and a $5,000 hot tub. So I would take that $7,000, I would invest that into my property. Let's say it doesn't have a hot tub, and now I've given it a hot tub. And based off my market research in the Red River Gorge and a lot of mountain markets, a hot tub can bring you as much as $10,000 in added gross income per year on investing in that hot tub in your property. Now, there's some really cool hot tubs out there, even rock formed shaped hot tubs that are super unique that I've seen at some properties, where I would even argue the revenue it brings you could be $15,000 plus more per year just out of its uniqueness. But we're going to do a small wood deck and a 6-person hot tub, and that hot tub is going to cost us $5 grand. We're going to find it used, but in good condition, and our deck's going to cost us $2,000. So we got a $7,000 investment back into my property, but it makes me $10,000 more on the year. That return on investment is in the 140% for an IRR, an internal rate of return. I not only made my $7,000 back, but I also made $3,000 beyond that initial payback. So that return on investment is 100% plus, almost 50% of that, beyond that 7,000 I make back in cash flow from that hot tub per year because I invested back into my property. Is it possible to reach 100+% return on investment in short-term rentals? Yes, in 2025, but it might be a mindset shift that you need of investing back into what you have. Do you have a pool at your property that you could add some built-in, like nice built-in umbrellas around it and chairs? Some ideas for ways of doing IRR, or internal rate of return, investing back into what you have, is upgrading your outdoor space. Can you add outdoor furniture, maybe a bit of landscaping or unique or maybe mood set lighting in order to create a space in your outdoor area, even if you've got a basic backyard wrapped in fencing, you can still make that something unique for you. I know that a lot of people on the Bourbon Trail in Western Kentucky and in a lot of markets, they tend to do a pea gravel area, an outdoor fire pit, chair seating to match the amount of guests the property can sleep, and some stringer lights. And that is a really cool vibe, and a lot of people really like that. And that will certainly bring you a return on your investment beyond what I think buying another property would do for you when you compare the two returns on investment. You could also go and look at your interior space of your Airbnb. Can you do more accent lighting? Can you update the furniture or do different types of furniture, maybe an accent chair or chairs? Can you do design art, buying it and putting design art around the property? Does your property look boring or the same than your competitive properties, and how can you differentiate yourself? That's what we're talking about here. You can also update your appliances. Are your appliances out of date? Is the dishwasher 25 years old? Then I would suggest you, before you abandon the property you have or go looking elsewhere, work on what you've got and see if you can make it better. As far as moving that needle, you can also think about cosmetic upgrades like your paint, wallpaper, accent walls or ceilings, and flooring upgrades. These types of things, these cosmetic lifts to the property that you have, could make a huge difference. I know that in the Red River Gorge, where I am currently invested, a lot of the cabins I'm competing against look like grandma cabins from 30 years ago. They don't look good. They all look the same, and there's nothing about them that differentiates them. So looking back at inside of themselves, rather than think scale to the max, and then collapsing in the end because we've over leveraged, you invest back into the property you have, I think you will see the difference. Another big thing about me talking about IRR today is amenity upgrades, hot tubs, barrel saunas, adding bikes to your property if you have a bikeable location, maybe by the beach or in some market or city or town where biking is a common thing, or maybe even adding a barbecue space at your property with the small pad and a barbecue grill and some seating and the stringer lights. By investing back into your property and creating spaces, you are creating experiences, and that is what people are paying for and looking for when it comes to staying at an Airbnb. They can find a bed, they can find a small fridge, they can find a kitchenette, they can find even a lot of hotel companies are creating things that compete against Airbnb, like separate properties all together next to their hotels, where they offer premium experience at actual properties to cut into Airbnb's margin. But hotels do not offer much in the way of experiences. They might have a pool room that's kind of dirty and shabby. They may have a crappily done gym space, but they still have that, and maybe a continental breakfast. But what we are doing with Airbnb, what you can do is maximize your property and create spaces, create experiences where one part of a room's the TV area and one part of the room has a table where you can meet with your friends. And those are two different spaces inside of a room. Don't think in terms of room, think in terms of spaces in rooms. And whenever you're maximizing your spaces that you've got or space and create experiences to the max in the rooms that you have, then that is what you're going to see a return on your investment. Even as much as adding a $7,000 hot tub setup can bring you as much as $10,000 a year in added revenue. And finally, I would say high-end consumables is possibly a way of getting a slight bump in your rate of return in your property. That could be both higher-end soaps and conditioners, as well as maybe single-use per-stay booking slippers that you provide to your guests based off the heads that have booked for the property. For example, if it's a two-person stay, you provide 2 sets of slippers, which the guests can keep and take home with them and use throughout the course of their stay. So these are several ways in which you can maximize maximize the overall experience of the property you already have, so that you instead don't bump to the next one, the next one, the next one, and do all of them mediocre, but instead you do your one property you have very well. A lot of them typically say, investors that are in this type of space, I'm sorry for all the text messages here, they typically recommend that you start your investment out when you go to list it on Airbnb with the most that you can do with it in the beginning, because a lot of us tell ourselves we will invest back into the property from the cash flow we get, and most people don't end up doing that. They end up living off the cash flow, and then they don't want to decrease their living standards they've bumped up to, because it would cut into their cash flow, because they wouldn't be able to use their cash flow for themselves. They'd have to give it to their property. But we are running a business here, and we need to look at how we can leverage and make our business perform better. And I think more often than not, beyond just scaling to death, we maximize what we have by thinking about the internal rate of return, the IRR, on what it would mean to invest back into my property and make it something special. And I think these several examples I gave you, increasing the outdoor space, the interior space, appliances, cosmetic upgrades, amenities most of all, and high-end consumables are ways that you can make your property better, perform better, and bring you a better rate of return than you could get if you went and bought another property and scaled into the next thing you can only do, possibly mediocre or only at best that you can, because you've got a limited amount of cash flow. I think you could see your rate of return be far higher when it comes to investing back into your property in 2025 than you would in scaling into the next investment potentially, by thinking about this internal mindset. How can I maximize the business I have instead of increasing the size of my business before it's ready to perform at a very high level? So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, internal rate of return. How can you invest back into your property? This is Bluegrass Rentals of EKY, going from full-time RN to full-time RE. Thank you for being here. God bless you guys. Hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And again, have a great day.